I don't want to do this anymore.
I don't want to do this ever.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Anastasia podcast.
The Matt and Anastasia podcast.
Yes, this podcast is going to seem a little bit out of order because we're recording this on a Monday, and I might try to release this episode tomorrow on Tuesday because of all of the world events that have been happening in the past 2 weeks.
I would be so proud of you if you could edit this in the same day and get it posted. That'd be crazy.
I'll try. It depends on if, someone takes care of the baby.
Yeah, I don't think it's that important to get this out.
In a baby-free world, things can happen. In a baby-filled world, nothing's happening. But, we're going to talk about a couple serious things, and I don't claim to be an expert or even know any of the answers. I just know that it was a really heavy week. We had a death in our family, and then it was just kind of one thing after another in the news. And I think what am I trying to say here?
The weight?
Well, I think the shock of seeing Charlie Kirk be killed online too, like that, or be assassinated, that was so,
That weighs heavy on an emotional person's
yeah.
soul who's not supposed to see things like that.
So I want to talk about it. And another topic I wanted to talk about today was not giving up when you feel like you're failing.
You should never give up, even when you're failing. I didn't know you were going to expect me to say something after that part. I thought you were just going to say, that's what
I just want you to talk whenever you want to talk.
Oh, man, that'll be a quiet podcast for me.
So anyways, today we went on a walk. It's Monday. It's Grandma Day. Noli's with Matt's mom.
Zoo day.
Noli's going to the zoo. We went to the zoo with her for the first time last week, and then she's going again with Matt's mom's sister and some other nieces and nephews or cousins or whatever of the family. So that's really cute. She's going to get tired at the zoo.
Yeah, it's only been 6 days since she's been to the last time, so.
On our hike today, we were kind of talking about what topics we wanted to cover, and I feel like it's important to share this too because my husband is how you're wired is you don't really like to talk about anything.
I don't like to talk about anything that I don't already know everything about.
You've always been someone where if a topic comes up and you haven't studied it or done your own research on it, you're like,
I don't like weighing in and giving my opinion on things that I'm not sure about because I don't want that to come back and bite me in the ass later.
That's interesting to me because I think you can be a part of a conversation and it's okay to say, I don't know. I don't know these things. And I mean, between me and you as a husband and a wife, we can have completely different conversations than I understand how you feel about this at scale.
Mm-hmm.
But I was saying to you how I don't want to talk about anything that happened in the past few weeks in the news from a all-knowing standpoint. I just feel like this is something where a lot of people who were shaken and rattled by it are drawing close to each other, and you're looking for community and understanding. And in that way, I do feel like it's important to weigh in because you help others by sharing your thoughts and your perspectives and your feeling on things. Because I think especially the heaviness of Charlie Kirk being killed, for me, that just pushed me right back into our faith. That is the only thing that is giving me any kind of comfort through something so challenging, because I feel like for Charlie Kirk, it was almost easier to start a mourning process than processing my cousin, because my cousin passing was so shocking to me that I almost had to stay away from it, because otherwise I would dive so deep in emotional turmoil that I don't know if I would pull myself out.
It's different too because you didn't watch one of them happen.
That's true, but I mean, to some degree, then when you know the person and you didn't see it happen, your imagination goes to dark places,
Mm-hmm.
Picturing that person there with their own thoughts, feeling totally hopeless, that is a whole nother thing. When I found out, I was sitting on the couch playing with Noli in the living room, and one of my coworkers voice noted me and was like, Anastasia, did you see what happened? And she's like, it's all over the internet. And I open my phone and it's right there. And I turned the volume all the way down and I squinted my eyes because I can't watch scary stuff. And then I saw it. And I was still he's going to be okay. They're going to save him and he's going to be okay. You were at work. I didn't get a chance to talk to you. I want to talk about what it was like for you at work, because I do think women and men process these kinds of things differently because in the way that like I couldn't watch, my brothers probably watched it 5 times. And I think there's just something about, this is my perspective, the male psyche. You guys will like look at stuff like this to understand it.
You're just analyzing.
Yeah, and I guess, like, there's something that they say, like, you need to know true evil to, like, understand it, and you can't just always guard yourself from it or, like, shy away from it because then you'll never understand the severity of how evil can be. Women, I do think we're more sensitive because we're the more emotional.
Well, that's why I didn't tell you anything about it. I figured I would break the news to you gently when I came home. Didn't realize that your coworkers were gonna spill the beans while I couldn't talk to you, and I knew you'd be in a bad place if you were at home alone watching that kinda stuff, especially if you got, like, caught up in it and that was the only thing you were doing.
Well, I think there was no way to not get caught up in it. I also am glad that my coworkers told me because I had a chance to start processing it earlier on versus I was like, okay, imagine like I didn't go on my phone. I was doing what I was doing, like playing with Noli. I had to run out to Home Depot, whatever. I'm like, what would have been better? I put Noli to bed and at 10 o'clock I open my phone and see it. And then I'm like processing it all at that. Like that to me was worse. You that night got held at work until almost 4 a.m.
Mhm.
You had your own whole stuff going on. It's just too much seriousness or like very serious situations happening at once. And I'm like, I am foaming at the mouth. And then in those moments, like I just have to literally surrender everything to God because I think like the human spirit is not designed to carry all that heaviness.
Yeah, well, there's also different humans that are built for different things. Not everybody's good at one thing, while others are really good at other things. So handling stressful and heavy things may not be your strong point, but you're really good at other things.
Well, that is really true. And I think that's actually something fair to consider with social media and just everybody having access to everything on their phones. I think by design, so many are not equipped to know like every evil, horrible thing happening at once. And if you're always
Yes,
subject to it,
nobody's fully equipped for that, but there are people that can handle it better than others. But you should probably know your own limits, and you should stick within your limits. Especially when you're alone and, like, you're in a dark place. Say you were just in a darker place in general in life, and then that like, your cousin, and then this, and you could spiral easier. But if you
yeah.
know, like, "Hey, I can't do this kinda stuff, I can't watch this, I can't be involved in it," and you have the capability or the ability to shut yourself out from that, that's probably better for you mentally.
Okay, I think I do a very good job of like shielding myself
I'm
from
not
a
saying
lot of
you
stuff.
don't.
Well, no, no, no. But I'm saying like I know this about myself and I'm understanding what you're saying.
You won't
I've
even watch scary movies.
Yeah, I have applied this in my life for a long time. It's something that you didn't understand for a while, but then you came to understand it more about me. Like I like would stop watching streaming platforms if the commercials that they did, this is back when like commercials were always like you couldn't not have commercials. If the commercials were like horror movies, I'm like, I can't, this is just a no for me because I don't want that stuff in my brain at all. I stopped watching the news years ago, because we all know that it is like a fight for our attention and the shock factor wins. So it's all about enticing people, drawing them in, and it's horror after horror after horror. The big things you do hear about, and that is important. But I think everyone just starts to become this crusader of like, well, why aren't you talking about this? And why aren't you talking about people are trying to live. We're still responsible for taking care of our families at the end of the day. Ministry, I guess, like even to the world, it starts at home.
Well, you were never designed to know the news. You were designed people lived in tribes, small concentrated groups and families and large extended families, and you worried about yourself and your family and your little life. You weren't designed to know about the wars going on the other side of the world and all the hate and bad things that are going on everywhere. But now the news exists, the internet exists, all these things, and now problems on the other side of the planet become your problems, and you're focused on them and you're hyper focused on them, but your family and your inner circle is what you need to focus on the most.
I think not only does that stuff exist, I think since the beginning of time, like there's good and evil, and every single thing is morphed kind of to like be a money making machine.
Mm.
So it's not even about just delivering news, it's about sensationalizing everything. It's just like a sick time. And it just comes back to like biblically, we're told to it says, guard your heart because everything you do flows from it. Again, this is not me saying I know all the answers. Some people feel like they have like more strength, but is it more strength when you're sitting on your phone and on your computer, foaming at the mouth all day, day after day? Like with your hope in like humanity and just life and existence diminishing like by the minute.
Yeah.
What was it like for you guys? Because I know when I talked to you later in the night, and I was saying, like, I really hope that they were gonna save him, you were like, "Oh god, no." Like, nobody survives a shot like that.
As soon I mean, I saw it relatively soon after it happened, and the video, like, at first I saw a far away one, and I was like, "Okay, that didn't look good." And then, like, immediately after that, I saw the up close and personal one, and I'm
I
like,
didn't see that one.
"Okay, yeah, there's no way that's survivable." Like, they're like, "Oh, he's still
They
he's"
said he had a pulse. That's what, like,
that part I didn't hear, but
when I Googled Charlie Kirk, like, one of the first articles was, like, "In critical condition," and I was like, "Okay,
yeah,
that's
but
not bad."
I know that when they say that, that just means that they don't know what happened yet, but they know it's bad. You get hit in a place like that, you bleed out in, like, less than 120 seconds, like, if it's not taken care of.
Immediately.
If you were in, like, an operating room, you'd have a very low chance of making it, never mind out in a public courtyard.
It's just wicked sad. There's been so much, like, grieving, I think, from the Christian community, and I understand a lot of people don't understand the Charlie Kirk appeal, and I think that's where there's just a difference in people. I think I'm not here to change anybody's minds. I think those who get it, and those who don't, don't.
I wasn't even necessarily, like, a fan of him, but I just didn't care. I don't care to watch any of that political stuff because I don't have room for that in my life, but it's still, like, a tragedy. It's horrific. The guy was married, he had a wife, he had kids, he had a family.
I think
Nobody deserves to go out like that,
it hits completely differently because he has 2 little kids and we're parents now.
and the girls.
Well, he had a daughter and a son.
Oh,
The 3-year-old is a girl, and well, I just think, like, the videos that his wife shares, like, she loves him so much, and that hits close to me because, like, marriage is so important to me, and I'm such a firm believer in the power of, by God's design, marriage and family. I didn't follow his podcast or follow any of really his videos. I knew of him, but I always like, for me, Charlie Kirk was someone where I, like, had respect for him, but what he was doing was not, like, my form of ministry. But it wasn't like, "Ugh, I wouldn't do that." I felt like he had a calling on his life that not many had. It's not easy to go up and have conversations like that, and that's kind of the basis of what you do. You go and you open the door for, like, debating with people on so far, like, the opposite spectrum of your beliefs. You can splice anything however you want on the internet. I truly feel like he never degraded anyone. He stood firm on his faith, and it's so admirable because I think so many fall short. I'm not painting him as Jesus because he was the only perfect one, but I think when you see a person and hear of a person and, like, you know a person by their works, that's what the Bible says. Like, people can say whatever they want, but, like, their actions, his actions were all good. And it was his beliefs were the same as my fundamental beliefs, and that's where it just hits super close to home. And it's now, as a parent, you just think about his kids growing up without a dad and the wife now becoming a widow, and it's crazy.
it's heavy.
It's super heavy. And then it's just like, the word assassination is crazy, and when I think of assassination, I think of JFK.
And okay.
Then it doesn't feel as simple as just like, "Oh, it was a freak thing about,"
He
like,
didn't get struck by lightning, he didn't get in a car crash, he was deliberately and purposefully taken out.
so that's where it just gets complicated, and the mind and the heart, like, searches for answers, but, like, the only one who can give true peace around it is God, so it gets heavy, and that's just how I feel about that. So I every night when I pray with Noli, we cover it all, and we're just so grateful that we're here and we're safe, and I wanna say the biggest thing that I've taken away from this is I'm starting to read my Bible cover to cover. I wanna try to read it in a year, and, like, one of the first nights I was reading what did I read? Genesis 1, 2, and 3 to us in bed, and then I found this I think he's a Catholic priest, but he has a podcast, The Bible in a Year, and, like, I went back and started listening to day 1 and day 2, and something that I like about someone who's dedicated their life to God and studying the Word, they when you read the Bible, they understand context in a way that I don't. When you and I were reading, I don't remember what version I was reading, but you tried to read the Bible one time and you said there was, like, a lot of begots and
Mhm.
not bigots, begots. Like, it was, like, all
That
begat, yeah, like, all Old English, and it's so hard to follow because in the beginning of the Bible,
you're spending all your time, like, researching what a word means versus just listening.
they're doing a lot of, like, lineage explanations, and you're just, like, getting lost in the swirl. So, anyways, I'm really excited to just read the Bible cover to cover and understand a lot of things about the word for myself because I think things get really messy and taken out of context, and God has given all of us discernment and wisdom in our own brains. And I think a lot of people who shout the loudest have not read the word for themselves. And that's okay. Like, if that's how you want to live your life, no one's forcing it down your throat. But I'd like to stand firm in my faith and know what I'm talking about when I talk about it.
It's always good to know what you're talking about before you say it.
Okay, so I want to talk about some of the recent school shootings too, because I actually don't. Were there two? Is it school shootings or like, was it church shootings?
They consider it a mass shooting anytime I think it's more than 4 people are shot. The last one was it was at a Catholic school, so
Was this the one on the first day of school?
I don't know if it was the first day, but it was close. It was I believe it was like a trans shooter or something that had a whole plan. They were gonna go inside and shoot everybody, and then they got there, found the doors locked, and were doing it from the outside until they killed themselves.
He killed himself? Why'd they kill themselves?
Almost all school shooters do. Very few of them are killed by the police. They end up killing themselves before somebody gets there.
Well, again, I'm not saying I know the solutions because I think any heartbreaking topic like this very quickly gets out of hand because it's very emotional. And I
And it's
think
extremely divisive. You have people that are set in their ways on both sides that don't wanna budge on anything, and it doesn't matter. Like, somebody's made up their mind, you're not gonna change them.
Mhm.
They've already made a decision that this is how I'm gonna feel, and I'm not changing how I feel about that because it's so divisive.
The way I try to approach it is I think people on both sides, I think where the heart is rooted is in the same place.
Everybody wants their kids to be safe.
Yes, crazy killings like that are heartbreaking, especially when children are involved because they are the most vulnerable and helpless. I think then people's offerings towards a solution when they're not aligned, that's where a lot of like hostility, I guess, comes out because there's already so much passion involved in the heartbreak and heartache of what happened. But something that it's really hard to like not read comments and start to think about things your own way. But something that I really don't like is when I see comments of people being like, well, conservatives this and like, oh, leftists that. And I literally am like, I don't think it's either of those. I don't think it's right versus left. I don't think it's conservative versus liberal. I think the amplified kind of craziness is the like extreme right and the extreme left. I think everybody else kind of in the middle, your hearts all do lie in the same place. And I think we're getting further and further apart from the ability to that bridge to between us, right? So like here's
Well, that's part of the media and everything that's going on, and that's literally their job is to create a divide as large as you possibly can.
it's
To
really hard.
When you do that, you make everybody that's extreme on one side and everybody that's extreme on the other that have such strong opinions that they get to, one, believe in whatever they choose to believe in, and then vehemently fight the other side because they're told that that's what they have to do. And then it's like you create this huge divide and nobody can kind of meet in the middle. And
It,
in reality, everybody just wants their kids to go to school and be safe.
mm,
They're like perfect little angels and they should never be subjected to something like that. But it all depends on where you're coming from and what kind of history somebody has to believe whether or not this is the right way to go about it or that's the right way to go about it.
I know I've said to you in the past, if I ever ran for president or I was in like some kind of office, I don't understand why they don't propose a plan where combat veterans, because we have so many people in our military, we have one of the best militaries in the world. I'm going to believe that because I love the USA. Why they don't take combat veterans and assign one to every single school as security. Not a security guard, because we've all seen security guards who probably can't even run a mile. Someone with a presence who's trained in optics and gives them a sense of like being plugged back into their community that they served overseas to protect their freedoms.
No, I mean, it's way more involved than that
Just like
because
anything, but this is a huge thing. I think it's that to me, sorry that I'm interrupting you, but that to me feels like a great place to start before like, well, let's just take weapons away. Because I know a lot of people feel really strongly about gun reform, and then the other side feels very strongly about not infringing on a Second Amendment. I think the people who don't want to infringe on the Second Amendment, right, is the Second Amendment
yeah.
the one to bear arms? Their perspective is it's not guns who kill people, people kill people. So they're looking at like the deranged people, people who are mentally ill, because I don't think any sane person goes out and does that. Then the opposing side is like, well, before we can get to the bottom of that, the whole mental health background, let's like address what we can. Again, I think the heart of both sides is in the same place of wanting to protect children and stop something like this from happening. It's just two different perspectives, because I also believe in, to some degree, like we're not promised this utopian experience on earth. from the beginning of time, there's good and there's evil,
Mhm.
and evil will always exist. And to some degree, we have to know how to protect ourselves.
I mean, without getting into like a gun control argument, you can't uninvent something.
Mhm.
Something that's already been invented, you can't uninvent it. You can make them as illegal as you want. You can do whatever. We all know that people break laws every single day. And if somebody has their mindset on something, even if you could, have this magic bullet that could take away all guns and guns just don't exist anymore, other weapons still exist. Before guns were ever invented, there was warfare, there was killing, there was death. People use spears, people use knives, people use clubs. You could use whatever. There are good people and there are bad people, and bad people will do bad things regardless of the tools that they use them for. Now, you can argue that somebody that is bad, that doesn't have access to a high capacity weapon or something like that, can't do it as quickly and as efficiently. But if somebody truly wanted to, they could do absolutely
Yeah.
crazy damage. Like, I mean, it's all in somebody's mindset. If somebody is going to go hurt people and that they've made up their mind, they're going to hurt people, you can hurt a lot of people with very limited tools very quickly. They're sickos out there.
And I think we like to live and not think about that, but that is a hard reality. Again, you don't have to like look at it all the time, but I don't know. I just don't understand why utilizing people who have already been trained like that.
Well, you run into a problem with one, they're older. Two,
What do you mean older? People in their 30s and 40s?
you're saying combat veterans. Somebody who has actually seen combat at this point is older now. There hasn't been a ton of combat going on recently.
Okay, 40s and 50s.
Okay. And then you also have the fact that a lot of them come back from those things with PTSD. A lot of them have different opinions or they have a completely different rules of engagement when you're in a war versus when you're in a school. Then you have a problem where one person, one-on-one fight, like you never want to go into a fight that's fair. You always want to go into a fight with the unfair advantage. Now you have one person going against one person. It's still really hard for one person to protect an entire school. If somebody came from one side and you're on the other side, it's going to take you 2-3 minutes, maybe more, to get across an entire campus. So sometimes one person wouldn't even be enough. Then you have the issue
Well, I
of
think for colleges, you'd obviously like, depending on the population, but I'm thinking about like little kids' schools, if there
I'm not
is,
saying it's wrong. I do think that we should have somebody at every single school. I'm just saying it's not the perfect answer.
I don't think there is a perfect answer, but I think trying is worth it. And I think you obviously don't just take anybody who's like, we vet people for positions in the government, for fire, police, like government, FBI,
Police,
CIA.
look at Uvalde in Texas. You had actual police officers that are trained that are supposed to be doing the right thing, and they get there and they're scared and they don't go in. And now you're like, okay, I see you hire a combat veteran. Who's to say that this person truly is going to go in and risk their own lives for somebody else? You hope that they will, but you never know until somebody's actually tested.
Well, I mean, I think if these combat veterans have already deployed and it's people who willingly, I think some people are born with that, like, I will go nature, and some people are not. And I think things get messy, even like the whole movement about all cops are bad. And then it's like, the argument to that is like, okay, are all cops bad or are there just some bad cops? Are all doctors like good or bad or are there just like there's bad eggs everywhere is I guess what I'm trying to say. And same with the military and same with literally anything anywhere because there's always these exceptions to the rule, right? Like we can have these standards of how someone's allowed to apply and the filter process and psychological examinations and all these background testing things, but then there are always the like, okay, but like they know a guy, so you need to let them through. And that, like, that has ripple effects. And I think that's how you end up with people who are in positions that they shouldn't be and can't deliver like under the oath that they promised to show up in. And at the same time, I think sometimes like humans are humans and sometimes people just don't get it right in the moment when something crazy happens and no one will know how anyone will react unless it's you in that moment. But I think again, the filtering process, they don't figure out for the first time if certain military members are capable of going and doing a secret ops mission when the boots are on the ground in the Middle East. They filter all that stuff out back in the US. And I think that they can do that enough to protect our kids and our schools. And
More, I agree that more can definitely be done and should be done.
we've like never talked about this super at length.
No, and here we are airing our laundry to the world.
No, I think it's important to have these conversations. I think you're just going to have to go to school with Noli all the time, or maybe Noli's going to have to be homeschooled.
Yeah, this is her. We're sitting in her classroom right now.
I don't know if I'm gonna homeschool. I don't know if I'm prepared for something like that, but
Grandma will do it.
yeah, grandma will totally do it. She would love it. We're like, school's like not on our radar yet, for Noli, but why you have nothing to say?
Because, well, we just said she's gonna be homeschooled.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not gonna argue with you about it on camera, but she'll be homeschooled.
Oh, yeah? Daddy gonna teach her or Bulky's gonna teach her?
I could teach her a little something.
We'll do archery at 9 a.m.
We'll learn about business. We'll learn about taxes. We'll learn about investments. We'll learn about being a good person.
That's just a lot of heaviness. I think there's no easy way to talk about this, but I will say sometimes it feels too heavy and too hard to have conversations, especially with people who have opposing views as you. And
And that's okay. You can have a different view.
I think it's just remembering, because I feel like this is what Charlie did. He left the door open for come take the microphone. We can be completely different. We don't have to agree. But he never like belittled someone and called them nasty names. Like that never happened.
That you know of.
No,
We're speaking absolutes.
I think you get to know someone by their works. I think his death felt a lot bigger because I think a lot of people know that they're not that graceful. Like I know myself, I'm not. I get mad, dude. We talk about stuff. I get angry. I'm not as graceful as him. And I think you can possess those skills and you can develop those skills. And I think that was really important for him because they say, like, statistically, he had the largest influence over the youth. You don't just wake up and you're like that. You earn that through communication and etc. So rest in peace, Charlie Kirk.
Amen.
Amen. Regarding my cousin who passed away, I do not feel like in a place where it's my place to share, but we had a really like unfortunate grave loss. Unfortunate like isn't even the right word. We had like a devastating loss in our family and it took everyone by surprise. And I think stuff like that just reminds us too that you never know how bad someone is hurting or suffering. And I think the ripple effect of things like that is everyone starts to think like, how could I have been there for someone more?
Yeah, what did I do wrong? Did I?
No, not like, what did I do wrong? But like, how did I fail? Like, I even as a cousin, this was like one of my little cousins that like I've talked to like a couple times. I've seen in passing at family things, but it's like you're in different worlds, you know? I'm 34, he was 23. And it's like last year we had another one of my family members unexpectedly passed away tragically as well, but it was like a freak medical thing. Like they still didn't really know what happened. And I couldn't go to that funeral because I was pregnant. I think I was like 8 months pregnant and it was just going to be too much to travel. All of our cousins from up here got a chance to reunite with all of our cousins down south. And that's when everyone just saw my cousin who passed this year, and it's just everyone was left just like dumbfounded because I think sometimes you think if someone's exhibiting certain signs of like hopelessness and like true depression, it'll be more recognizable.
You feel like you would catch it, but you never know.
But I don't think any of us have ever witnessed that of truly his own family felt so blindsided by it. And I don't even just know what to say. You know, I think we compartmentalize all these heartbreaking things that we hear. I never want to leave my house. I want you to quit your job and be home with us all the time. Like, you know, it's just,
This is why you can't have social media.
I didn't even know about that girl until I think people were like talking about it with Charlie Kirk happening because again, like I feel like I try to do a pretty good job of just staying plugged into our family and focusing on the task at hand, raising our daughter, taking care of our house. Huh?
And guarding your heart.
And then it's just like a floodgates. And I can keep myself busy during the day, but it's every single night when I'm rocking Noli to bed in her room. There's no lights on. I've always said this, like, you can pretend that you're okay with XYZ, but when the night falls and it's you and your thoughts at night, like, how are you really? And when I pray when I'm rocking her to sleep, like, that's when everything falls apart. And it's just, I don't want to say too much to bear, but it just like overtakes you with sadness. And it's okay to be sad. Like, it's okay to feel like that and feel those feelings. And I think for me, something that was really hard too is you weren't home. You worked like the most mental schedule for 2 weeks back to back, and I couldn't, like, grieve with you, and I just literally needed to, like, hug you and just bawl my eyes out, and I couldn't.
You have to hug the baby, though.
Yeah, but I don't wanna take it all out on Noli, and then it's like, when you don't get a chance to properly process, it prolongs it in you, and I remember when I worked in corporate, I worked with this guy, Jacob, uh, Rosanov or something. It was like he was a Jewish guy, and he was in charge of all of our Jewish accounts with UNFI. And I think one of his parents passed away or something like that. And he's like, in our faith or in our religion, we take a week off and we go and we sit in the temple for an entire week and you grieve. And it's messy and it's heavy, but you have to get it all out. He's like, you literally don't do anything for 7 days but sit. Is it a synagogue or a
I think people do it at their homes too. I'm not sure.
kind of, but, like, you just are not allowed to do anything but grieve, and he's like, "You have to let yourself work through all of it." He's like, "I have friends whose parents passed away 30 years ago, and they're still not over it," things like that, like, nobody expects anybody to get over it, but I think we often feeling real feelings is hard, so people get busy
Bottle it up,
getting busy.
kick the can down the road, and then eventually there's no more room inside to put any more of
Mhm.
your own crap, and then it all spills over.
I do wanna say too, we've touched upon this in podcasts, and I don't know if this podcast is gonna come out before the other ones, but in the other ones, like the 2 that I have logged, I have 3 podcasts, including this one, that, like, are due to be published. Like, taking responsibility for things in life we've touched upon is so important because if you don't, it gets passed down generationally. That stuff manifests into different forms, and you have no idea how it's gonna affect your kids or your kids' kids, and this is down to, like, biblical stuff, like, things got passed down generationally until it was worked out the way it needed to be worked out and processed, and you can run, but you can't hide, and if you're so uncomfortable with dealing with pains, God sees that, but you have to, like, lean into wanting healing, like, for your family, because if you don't, your kids are the ones who pay the price, and I totally believe that. You see that with, like, broken homes and people never addressing certain things, like and by broken homes, I mean, like, if your parents are drug addicts or abusive or there's sexual abuse or whatever, all that stuff, when it's not processed properly, it affects the next generation, period.
It just happens. It's inside somebody, and they might not even notice that it's an issue for them or whatever, but one day later down the road, it might come out.
Well, it does come out because that stuff needs to be released and then, like, put to death, basically. So, anyways, this is like a sad and somber podcast. I don't know what else to share
You wanted to talk about failure.
about not letting failure define you.
Correct. Because it doesn't have to. It can. You can choose to let it define you, or you can choose to keep pushing. But nobody that is super successful has gotten there without failing. The people that are most successful are the ones that fail and learn from their mistakes and continue and then fail again and fail again. And I believe that the term is called failing upwards. Every time you fail, you're moving up one more level. You know what not to do now for the next time. And you continue to do it versus somebody that's so afraid to fail, they never decide to make that decision and they don't make the leap, they don't do the jump, whatever that thing is, because they don't want to fail. They're stuck right there at that level. You can't get above that level without failing and finding out how to become better.
I think when I thought of this week, like, not letting failure define you, I was also thinking about not necessarily being so afraid to fail that you don't start. I was thinking about the psychology of having something not go a way that you would have liked and it imprinting so boldly on you that you let it, like, completely redefine you, and then you decided to just that is your new identity. Like, I suck, I failed, I'm not worthy, and then it's all consuming.
Well, it's not failing, being okay with failing or being good at failing isn't something that comes naturally. It's exactly opposite. Like your brain doesn't want you to fail. Your body doesn't want you to fail. So inherently you're going to try and push failure away and do things that you know you can accomplish without failing because that's just your body's natural reflex or response is to keep you from pushing too far because it doesn't feel good to fail and your body and your brain don't want you to not feel good. So it's something you need to work through and fight through to continue to
I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
move on.
I think that's why we have a lot of soft people in the world today, because it's easier to just sit on your cushy seat, be a keyboard warrior, but like never really go after anything in life.
Mhm.
And what I'd say, weak times produce weak men.
Every person out there is can fall subject to that. I'm afraid to fail at a ton of stuff. Things that I probably could have my whole life could be different if I did certain things that I wasn't afraid to fail. But that also doesn't mean you should stop now and just accept where you're at. You have your entire life to continue to become a new person. There's all these CEOs or people of giant companies that they didn't make their first successful move until they were 40, 50, 60. Like, you don't have to start at 15 and become a professional at anything. Like, you can continue to work through.
Yeah, I think there is this whole social thing where, like, if you don't have it figured out by the time you're 25, like, you wasted all your time. And it's like life is an evolution, and it's what you do with every experience and how you learn from it and you let it propel you, and like the wisdom that you gain from it. And like my favorite book in the whole world, the You're a Badass book, until I finish the Bible. That will be my new favorite book in the world. But I remember listening to it at 21, and she's like, "I didn't figure my shit out until I was in my 40s." And I remember thinking like, "Damn, dude, you were in your 40s? That sucks. I'm gonna figure it out way sooner than that." Well, I'm 34, and I still think I'm actively trying to figure it out, and I feel further now than when I was 21. Not actually, I know that's not true, but I thought I was gonna figure life out on a completely different level by now, and I'm not there. And it's just, so what? Do I just give up? And like, "Oh, boohoo, shame on me. How embarrassing." No, you just gotta
Just
keep
keep,
going. I think that's easier said than done because sometimes you can get like probably every single week, "I don't wanna podcast anymore." Every single week.
yeah, every time before it's time to film one, every time it's time to edit one, every time it's time to publish one.
Well, I told you this the other week. Can you see my foot?
No.
No? Okay. I put my foot up on Matt's chair. Every single week, my life feels so my schedule feels so compact right now with just taking care of Noli, and her still like, her sleep schedule is not solidified, and it's hard to, like, get on a routine with what I can even accomplish on a week by week basis when Magnolia, it's like every single time she rolls that bowling ball, dude, it's a different strike. It's there's no pattern, it's freaking different every single time, and as a human, as an adult human with an adult brain, you can only handle so much.
Yeah.
And
And
it
you're
just
looking for the first thing. What's the easiest thing I can cut out?
yeah.
My life simpler.
So sometimes I think, like, if I'm living in the state where I'm constantly feeling like I'm behind the ball, like every Tuesday, I barely get a podcast out. Last week, I didn't even get my podcast out till Wednesday, and I didn't even announce that I published it because of the whole Charlie Kirk thing. I was like sick to my stomach about it. And then at Thursday, I work for the salon, and then I always feel like I'm behind on stuff like that. And then it's like life stuff Friday, then it's the weekend, and our weekends are not even glorious. It's just still catching up. And then I blink and it's Monday again, and I'm like, "Oh, wow, like, I still feel so behind the ball." And I was like, maybe it's crazy to think that in this season of my life, like, I could be doing something like still podcasting, and it's like, I wanna take it off my plate because
But you made a promise to me that you would do it for a whole year.
and you gotta keep holding me accountable to it because
I'll
I
let you know.
have no problem breaking a promise to myself.
I don't even want to be here right now, but here I am,
Yeah, thank
making
you.
sure that you stick to your promise.
You don't even wanna be here right now talking about topics like we're talking about.
I don't want to be here at all. I'd rather be out on the tractor, fixing our yard or working on the deck or
Yeah.
doing anything.
So, anyways, sorry, like, for the weight of this podcast. Thank you guys all for joining us. You just got to keep on keeping on, and like, the world will break your heart, and it breaks it every single day.
Focus on you and your family and your inner
Yes,
circle.
because I really believe like life on earth is not what it's about. This is us having an earthly experience. If you're a person of faith, life in heaven is the ultimate goal. And I think as long as we love our family, love our friends,
Treat others with respect.
as long as you love your family and live life as righteously as you believe you're called to based on the teachings of whatever your faith is.
Do the best you can and don't give up.
Amen. Thank you guys for joining us.
See you next time, probably.
See you next time.